Hey, so tonight we're going to talk about Victorian social rules. Trust me, these people had some seriously bizarre ideas about proper behaviour that'll make your modern awkward moments seem like nothing. Oh, and if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. Super curious where you're all listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Always blows my mind how people are falling asleep to this all over the world. All right, let's head back to Victorian England. Trust me, it's going to be quite a ride. So congratulations, you just woke up in London sometime around 1850. Your eyes blink open to find yourself in a narrow iron bed frame, not the memory foam mattress you're used to. This one's stuffed with horsehair, slightly prickly, slightly lumpy. The room is chilly, really chilly. The coal fire that was burning when you fell asleep has died down to glowing embers, leaving just enough light to make out the shadows of furniture around you. A bulky wardrobe, a washstand with a ceramic basin, a dressing table with a small mirror. You hear the distant clatter of iron-rimmed carriage wheels on cobblestones outside. A dog barks somewhere down the street. The air smells of coal smoke. Always coal smoke in London. It seeps in through every crack, under every door, through every window frame. Mixed with it is the faint scent of bergamot oil from the perfume bottle on your dressing table. That sharp, citrusy smell that everyone's wearing these days. The sheets around you are cotton, not particularly soft, but clean at least. Your nightgown is flannel buttoned right up to your chin. God forbid anyone should see your neck or wrists while you're sleeping. That would be scandalous. On the table beside your bed sits a small bell. You reach for it and give it a ring. Almost immediately you hear footsteps on the stairs. Your maid, Mary, appears at the door, already fully dressed despite the early hour. "Good morning, miss," she says with a small curtsy. "Shall I draw the curtains?" Without waiting for your answer, she crosses to the window and pulls back heavy velvet drapes, letting in weak grey London daylight. The glass is smeared with soot from the countless chimneys belching smoke into the air. "What would you like to wear today, miss?" Mary asks, moving to the wardrobe and opening it to reveal an array of dresses, each more elaborate than the last. And here's where your crash course in Victorian social rules begins, because what you wear, how you speak, how you walk, who you talk to, when you talk to them, and basically everything else you do today will be governed by the most complex social code humans have ever created. The Victorians were basically playing life on expert mode. One wrong move and boom, social disgrace. "You have a morning call with Mrs. Hartley at 11, Mary reminds you as she selects a day dress in a deep blue, and then tea with your cousin Emily at 4. These morning calls are your first lesson in Victorian social rules. Despite the name, they never happen in the morning. Morning calls take place between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. I know, it makes zero sense. But call them afternoon calls and people will look at you like you've lost your mind. Morning calls last exactly 15 minutes. Not 14, not 16, 15. And you better have a pocket watch to time yourself because overstaying is considered extremely rude. Mary helps you into your clothes, which is a whole process. First, the chemise, basically a long cotton slip. Then the corset. Hoo boy, the corset. Mary puts it around your waist and starts pulling the laces. "Tighter," you say, remembering that a proper Victorian lady is supposed to have a waist you can span with your hands. "Yes, miss," Mary says, yanking harder until you can barely breathe. Your ribs shift slightly. Your lungs can only expand about halfway. This is fashion, baby. Next come the petticoats, 1, 2, 3 of them, each adding a layer of bulk to your lower half. Then the crinoline, a cage-like structure made of steel hoops that makes your skirt bell out around you like a giant lampshade. Finally, the dress goes over it all, with its tight bodice and enormous skirt. By the time you're done, you're wearing about 15 pounds of clothing. Mary does your hair, pulling it back severely from your face and arranging it in a neat bun at the nape of your neck. No flyaways allowed, everything controlled, everything proper. Will you be wearing gloves or mittens today, miss? Mary asks, holding up both options. Gloves, you say, remembering that a proper Victorian lady never ever shows her bare hands in public. Ever. Your hands should remain mysteriously concealed at all times, like some kind of weird hand-based modesty rule. As Mary helps you with your gloves, you remember another cardinal rule: no perfume. Queen Victoria herself has declared that the heavy, musky perfumes of the previous era are vulgar. Instead, you dab a little lemon and bergamot oil on your handkerchief, just enough to smell clean, not enough to suggest you're trying to seduce anyone with your scandalous scent. Fully dressed, you make your way downstairs for breakfast. The house is coming alive around you. Servants scurry about, dusting, sweeping, polishing. The cook has been up since 5, preparing the morning meal. In the dining room, your father sits at the head of the table, newspaper in hand. Your mother is at the other end, already writing correspondence. They're both fully dressed because Victorians wouldn't dream of appearing at breakfast in anything resembling casual clothes. Good morning, you say, taking your seat. Your father lowers his newspaper just enough to nod at you, then raises it again. Public displays of affection, even between family members, are not the Victorian way. No hugs, no kisses on the cheek. Breakfast is substantial. Eggs, bacon, kidneys, toast, porridge. Victorians eat a lot at breakfast. It's their biggest meal of the day. You pick at yours, your corset making it impossible to take more than tiny bites. Remember, Jane, your mother says, not looking up from her letter. Mrs. Hartley's daughter has just become engaged. Be sure to congratulate her, but don't ask any details about the wedding. That would be presumptuous. You nod, making a mental note. This is typical of the invisible rulebook that governs Victorian society. You must acknowledge important life events, but never appear too interested in them. Curiosity is vulgar. After breakfast, you have a few hours before your morning call. You decide to work on your needlepoint, a suitably feminine pursuit. Idle hands are the devil's workshop, after all, and a proper Victorian lady is never idle. You sit by the window in the drawing room, stitching a pattern of flowers onto a piece of linen. Your mother joins you, taking up her own needlework. I saw Mrs. Fairchild yesterday, she says casually. Her son has returned from university. You keep your eyes on your stitching, even though your heart beats a little faster. Thomas Fairchild. You danced with him at a ball last season before he went away to Oxford. He had kind eyes and didn't step on your feet, which puts him ahead of most of the young men you've danced with. How nice, you say, your voice carefully neutral. She mentioned he asked after you. Your mother continues, watching your reaction closely. You feel your cheeks warm, but keep your expression composed. Did he? That's very civil of him. Your mother smiles slightly, satisfied with your restrained response. Showing too much interest in a young man would be improper. The game of Victorian courtship is all about pretending you're not playing it. At precisely 11:15, you put on your bonnet, gloves and cloak and set out with your mother for Mrs. Hartley's house. You carry a small card case containing your visiting cards, little pieces of paper with your name printed on them. These are essential to the ritual of morning calls. Mrs. Hartley lives just a few streets away, but walking too quickly would be unladylike. You adopt the proper Victorian lady's pace. Small steps, back straight, eyes modestly downcast. Your enormous skirt swings as you walk, occasionally threatening to knock over small children or dogs who get too close. People pass you on the street. Men tip their hats. You acknowledge them with the slightest nod, never making eye contact with strangers. A gentleman would never speak to a lady he hasn't been formally introduced to, and a lady would certainly never speak to a strange gentleman. You arrive at Mrs. Hartley's at precisely 11 o'clock. Punctuality is crucial. Being early is as bad as being late. Both suggest you don't have enough engagements to fill your day, which would be embarrassing. The butler answers the door. You hand him your visiting cards, one from you and one from your mother. He takes them on a small silver tray and shows you into the drawing room where Mrs. Hartley and her daughter Charlotte are waiting. Everyone curtsies. No one hugs or kisses cheeks. Physical contact is kept to an absolute minimum. "How kind of you to call," Mrs. Hartley says, gesturing for you to sit down. You arrange yourself carefully on a small sofa, mindful of your enormous skirt. Sitting gracefully in a crinoline is an art form. You must perch right on the edge of your seat to accommodate the steel cage around your lower half. "We were so pleased to hear your happy news," your mother says to Charlotte, who blushes appropriately. "Thank you," Charlotte murmurs, eyes downcast. "Mr. Edwards is very kind." And that's it. That's all the information you're going to get about Charlotte's engagement. Not what her fiancé is like, not when the wedding will be, not how they met or whether she loves him. Those questions would be prying, and Victorians do not pry. The conversation moves on to safe topics. The weather, cloudy but not raining, recent sermons at church, uplifting but not too long, and a musical performance you all attended, accomplished but not showy. Everything is described in the most moderate terms possible. Strong opinions are for the lower classes. After exactly 15 minutes, your mother gives an almost imperceptible nod. That's your cue. You both stand up. "It was so lovely to see you," Mrs. Hartley says, also standing. More curtsies, more pleasantries. Then you're back out on the street, morning call successfully completed. "That went well," your mother says as you walk home. "Charlotte looked well, didn't she?" "Very well," you agree. In Victorian conversation, well is the highest praise one can give. Back at home, you have a light luncheon, then spend the afternoon reading an improving book. Nothing too exciting or romantic, of course. Novels that stir the emotions are considered potentially dangerous for young ladies. At 4 o'clock, you have tea with your cousin Emily, who comes to your house. The ritual is similar to the morning call, but slightly less formal since Emily is family. You still maintain perfect posture, still speak in measured tones about appropriate subjects, still avoid anything that might be considered gossip. After Emily leaves, you have a few hours before dinner. You practice the piano for exactly 1 hour, enough to maintain your skills without suggesting that you harbour inappropriate ambitions of becoming a professional musician. Dinner is at 7, a relatively informal family meal since you're not entertaining guests. Still, you change into a different dress, slightly fancier than your day dress, but not as elaborate as an evening gown. Victorians change clothes multiple times a day, each outfit precisely calibrated to the specific social context. At the dinner table, conversation is polite but not particularly personal. Your father discusses business matters with your brother. Your mother mentions charity work she's involved with. You listen attentively, occasionally offering a gentle opinion when directly addressed. After dinner, you all retire to the drawing room. Your brother and father might have brandy and cigars in the study, but ladies don't drink anything stronger than sherry, and they certainly don't smoke. Instead, you play the piano for the family or work on your needlepoint some more. By 10 o'clock, everyone is ready for bed. Another day of Victorian propriety successfully navigated. As Mary helps you undress, removing the layers one by one, you finally feel like you can breathe again when the corset comes off. "Will you need anything else, miss?" Mary asks as she helps you into your nightgown. "No, thank you, Mary," you say, settling into bed with a small sigh of relief. She curtsies and leaves, taking the oil lamp with her. The room falls into darkness except for the faint glow from the banked fire in the grate. You lie there, thinking about the day, all those rules, all that restraint. It's exhausting, but there's also something almost comforting about knowing exactly what's expected of you at every moment. As you drift towards sleep, you wonder what tomorrow will bring in this world of rigid propriety and hidden feelings. You'll need to navigate a formal dinner party, which means a whole new set of rules to remember, but that can wait until morning. For now, you let the distant sounds of the city lull you toward dreams. Your last thought before sleep takes you is of Thomas Fairchild and his kind eyes. In this world where so much is restrained and controlled, even the smallest connection feels significant. You wonder if you'll see him soon, and what complicated dance of social rules you'll have to perform if you do. Outside, fog rolls in from the Thames, wrapping the city in its damp embrace. Gas lamps cast hazy halos of light on the cobblestone streets. A carriage passes, wheels clattering. A night watchman calls the hour, and all across London, behind the prim facades of countless houses, Victorians lie in their beds, constrained by their social rules, even in their dreams. Morning arrives with the sound of Mary drawing back your curtains again. The pale winter sun barely penetrates the ever-present London fog. Another day of Victorian propriety awaits you. "Good morning, miss," Mary says, placing a cup of hot chocolate on your bedside table. "It's going to be a busy day." You sip the chocolate as Mary lays out your morning dress. Today is indeed important. You're attending a formal dinner party at the Fairchilds' house. Yes, those Fairchilds. Thomas will be there. The morning passes in a blur of preparations. Your mother insists you practice piano for 2 hours instead of the usual one. The Fairchilds may ask you to play, she explains. Mrs. Fairchild mentioned their new pianoforte. It would be rude to decline. Another Victorian rule to remember: never refuse a direct request to demonstrate an accomplishment, but also never appear too eager to show off. It's a delicate balance. After lunch, you take a light walk in the nearby park with your mother. The crisp winter air is actually cleaner than inside most homes, where coal fires fill the rooms with a fine layer of soot. Ladies stroll along the pathways, nodding politely to acquaintances. Gentlemen tip their hats as they pass. "Remember," your mother says quietly as you walk, "at dinner you'll be seated according to rank. Don't appear surprised by your placement, whatever it may be." You nod. The Victorian dinner table is a battlefield of social hierarchy. The most important male guest sits to the right of the hostess. The most important female guest sits to the right of the host. Everyone else is arranged in descending order of social importance. Being seated near the bottom of the table is a clear message about your status. Back at home, preparation for the evening begins in earnest. A formal dinner party requires your finest appearance. Mary runs a bath for you, adding a few drops of rose oil to the water. The bathroom is chilly despite the small fire burning in the grate. You bathe quickly, shivering, as you step out onto the cold floor. Then the dressing begins. Tonight requires full evening dress. Your corset is laced even tighter than usual. Your crinoline is wider. Your gown is pale blue silk with delicate lace trim. The neckline is lower than your day dress, showing your collarbones and a hint of shoulder. The maximum amount of skin a respectable unmarried woman can display. Your hair is arranged in an elaborate style, with small silk flowers pinned among the curls. A light dusting of rice powder on your face gives you the fashionable pale complexion. No rouge, though. Only actresses and women of questionable virtue wear obvious makeup. "You look beautiful, Miss," Mary says, stepping back to admire her work. You barely recognize yourself in the mirror. You look exactly like a proper Victorian young lady should. Poised, controlled, elegant, your waist impossibly small, your skirt ridiculously wide. Fashion is suffering, but fashion must be obeyed. Your father has arranged for a carriage to take you to the Fairchilds. It's a cold night and walking would ruin your carefully arranged appearance. Plus, arriving in a carriage rather than on foot displays your family's prosperity. The carriage pulls up outside a large townhouse on one of London's most fashionable streets. Lights blaze from every window. A footman in livery opens the carriage door and helps you step down. Inside, the house is warm and bright. Gaslighting, the latest modern convenience, illuminates the entrance hall. A maid takes your cloak, revealing your evening finery. The butler announces your family as you enter the drawing room, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson and Miss Jane Wilson. All heads turn. You feel your cheeks warm, but keep your expression composed as you make your curtsies to Mr. and Mrs. Fairchild. And there, standing beside his mother, is Thomas. He's taller than you remember, his evening clothes emphasizing his broad shoulders. He bows perfectly, not too deep, which would seem obsequious, but not too shallow, which would be disrespectful. "Miss Wilson," he says, his voice deeper than you recall. "How pleasant to see you again." "Mr. Fairchild," you reply, your voice carefully modulated. "I trust Oxford agrees with you." The smallest of smiles crosses his face. "It does, thank you, though London has attractions that Oxford cannot claim." Is he flirting with you? It's so hard to tell with Victorian men. Their compliments are buried under layers of propriety. More guests arrive. The drawing room fills with the murmur of polite conversation. Everyone stands. Sitting before dinner would suggest eagerness to eat, which would be vulgar. You notice Charlotte Hartley and her fiancé, Mr. Edwards, across the room. They stand a respectable distance apart. No touching, no meaningful glances. To the casual observer, they might not even be engaged. When all the guests have arrived, the butler announces that dinner is served. Now comes the complex choreography of entering the dining room. The host, Mr. Fairchild, offers his arm to the highest-ranking female guest. The highest-ranking male guest offers his arm to the hostess. Everyone else pairs off according to status, forming a procession into the dining room. You find yourself paired with a middle-aged gentleman you've never met before. Thomas, you know